I had a very random thought last night when I was going to sleep. We live in the best times in human history, and if you were to consider most of humanity, the average person during most of human history did not have nearly as much luxury and comfort as us. That's pretty obvious. So I started to wonder, if you were to take a person from history, someone that's long gone, whether it's someone from 200 years ago or 1,000 years ago, and you place them into today's world, I started to think about their reactions. And initially I thought they'd probably be shocked. They'd probably go through some sort of sensory overload. Imagine taking a person that lived in a small village, probably less than 50 people, to come into a world where there's electricity instead of physical money or gold or sheep like they used to use. Everything's digital and people use bank accounts. They'd see that people are staring at boxes all day. You know, this may sound familiar. They would look at all of this and be like, what? And they would be completely shocked. But adaptation is inevitable. At one point it's just going to be normal. They might even be envious, wishing they had a life like this, while many of them lived on bread and cheap food, working 20 hours a day, and not to mention always worried about diseases. Not only diseases, but also invaders. Many of them probably had to worry about random thieves or bandits or Vikings, and that was just life. If they were to come back as ghosts and see the world today, and seeing people angry over a McDonald's order, seeing people get into road rage, seeing people get into drama with friends about petty stuff. The difference is just so insane. But the ironic part is, if that person were to come back as a ghost and see this, they might actually eventually be that same person that does those things. They would eventually adapt. They would eventually start to use modern technology. And then eventually maybe they're the ones getting into drama over petty stuff. Maybe they're gonna be the ones getting angry over Starbucks orders. The closest example I can think of this right now are North Korean defectors. They live an entire life inside of an isolated country, most likely are suffering, working 24/7, and then many of them that come to South Korea or the West, they adapt, obviously. They go through that same initial reaction I was talking about. They adapt. And then eventually they're going to just be normal people. And they won't even think of this as something new. It's just going to be normal to them. So you might be wondering what my point is. My point is basically, it just really goes to show that suffering always finds a way to take form. The better your circumstances get, suffering is just going to be into a different form. It's not going to be the same as it was before, but it's still going to be there. And the thing is, a lot of people try to say, oh, someone has it worse than you, which, yeah, is true. But unless you're the one physically or mentally experiencing suffering that's way worse, then you have no reference point. That's why you get upset by petty stuff. That's why getting cheated on is going to make you cry and think it's the end of the world. When I was younger, I always tried to tell myself people had it worse. How can I complain about life when people have it way, way worse? And no matter how much I tried, that way of thinking just never worked. And funny enough, that way of thinking doesn't work for anyone, even the ones that try to downplay other people's suffering. Yes, people had it way worse. Somewhere right now, a kid in Africa is mining materials. The same materials that are in our phones. Somewhere right now, someone in a rural Chinese town is probably making your shirts, working endlessly to support their family. But we are not them, unless we're the ones actually doing those things. Unless we're the ones suffering as much as they do, then we can never try to make light of our situation by just pointing out that they exist. No matter how much we try. It just doesn't work. The same could be said about the rich. We think that they don't suffer, we think that they're living life, we think that their lives are amazing, but that's not the case. Many of them end up doing things that are unimaginable, and that's simply because the suffering is just too much. And you can say, oh, people have it worse, you're rich, man, and it won't mean anything. And this is the whole point. Suffering is something that shapeshifts. No matter how far you think you've came, no matter how much you try to improve your circumstances, this world always finds ways to create new suffering. Looking at my life objectively, I complain about life, I say that life sucks. I complain about the system. But objectively speaking, I'm not living too bad. Chances are you're not living too bad either. Well, I'm not trying to downplay your suffering, of course, but chances are we all have the same modern luxuries. Technology, phones, computers, good food. I mean, I'm recording this one on Sunday. I woke up, I got some nice breakfast, I had French toast, I took it to my bed, and then I just watched some videos and had my breakfast. Meanwhile, my AC was turned on, so I was pretty comfortable. And yet, look at my channel. I literally have videos talking about this world isn't meant for me. And I'm not saying this to downplay my own suffering either. I'm just saying this because it just shows how being comfortable does not mean you won't suffer. It's just very odd how we live in the best times, and no matter how much we try not to, we always take it for granted. Right now, I don't know if you guys can tell, but I am sick. I had a really bad sore throat, a really bad cough. Just yesterday, my nose was leaking the entire day. It hurts really bad for me, but when I really thought about it, this is so tame compared to what most humans have gone through. Most humans back in the days, getting something as simple as a cold probably meant you're gone. Even something as simple as a toothache, you're probably gone. And the suffering was just far worse because they didn't have the treatments that we have now. Doctors back then, they performed surgeries when you were wide awake, feeling every bit of it. There was no anesthesia. When we're sick nowadays, we just chug a bunch of water and sleep and we're fine. Back then, you couldn't do that. You can't just go to Walmart or a grocery store and just buy a bunch of water. You have to look for it on your own. You can't have all day to sleep because you have to work. And back then, jobs didn't care if you were sick. If you couldn't work, then you just don't make money and you're just going to be gone. There's just so many things that we take for granted. But the bigger point here is, human history has just been suffering upon suffering and suffering. And only within the past 70, 80 years did it become decent. Even going as far back as 1920, 1930s, it was pretty bad. If you take any one of us watching this video and you transported us back into those days, or even deeper in history, which is way worse, then we would not survive. And the part where it gets interesting is, if we were to actually go back in time and experience what they experienced, we wouldn't be alone in having this self-awareness. There are people back then that thought the exact same things that I say every day. There was probably a kid or a teenager or a young adult back in, I don't know, 1420, laying in a grass field, looking at the sky and wondering, what the hell is this place? Wondering why they had to be born. The only difference between me and them is that I come home to AC, I come home to good food. Meanwhile, they only have about, 20 years left until they're gone? Like, there really were people that were just like me. It could be hundreds, it could be thousands of years ago. And the self-awareness they've had is pretty much equivalent to what we all have. They laughed, they cried, they sang, they danced. And now in the 21st century, we have social media. So as much as life sucks, at least we have a platform to express our thoughts. Meanwhile, they lived in a world that didn't care. Many of them also didn't believe in the religion that was preached to them, but they couldn't say anything because they would be branded as a heretic. Again, many of them asked themselves why they're here, questioned this existence, but it didn't matter. There was no YouTube to express your thoughts. You can question anything back then, but you were just told to go back to work. It's just absolutely wild how someone just like me was living in a completely different situation. And the same could be said about today, too. There's plenty of people today that are suffering more than we can imagine. But at the same time, they're just as self-aware as the rest of us. And also, in a couple hundred years, if we still exist, people will treat our lives as if it was crazy. Wow, they had to apply to jobs? Wow, that's crazy. Wow, they were using those phones, those black rectangles? Damn. People are gonna look at our lives and think, damn, I can't believe humans live like that. But at the same time, those people in the future are also going to suffer. And if we could peep into the future and see what they're going through, at first we'd probably also be like, wow, this is what you guys are complaining about. And if we were to actually time travel into the future, the same thing would happen. We would initially be overwhelmed, and then we would adapt, and then it's going to be normal, and then we're going to suffer. This world is just very brutal. Suffering is inevitable. Pain is inevitable. And the reality that we wish to have, a world where none of this happens, is just not a thing. And this is exactly why I cannot believe in religion. I had a few comments last video talk about, have you read the Bible? Have you read the Quran? No, I have not. And I don't need to. If there is a creator, how could you do this? How could you make a world like this? To me, it just doesn't make sense. Well, there are just some things that cannot be explained. But I will say this, since this world has so much suffering in it, one of the most important things you could do to prevent suffering is to take care of yourself, take care of your health. And a lot of people just don't realize it until it's too late. If you're not someone that's actively exercising, eating good foods, then I would highly recommend you to start doing so. Not because it's fun or whatever, but because you don't want to be suffering. And if you could prevent suffering, then why not? Especially if it's just something as simple as an hour walk a day, or maybe just increasing your water intake, or maybe lifting some weights, maybe. Basically any form of exercise. And the way I see it, you are separate from your body. You are not your body. There is you, the mind, the consciousness, the thoughts, the emotions, the feelings of regret, shame, fear, anxiety. That's you. Your body is basically a tool that just carries those feelings. When I look at myself in the mirror, I don't really feel like I'm seeing myself. I feel like I'm seeing some sort of tool that's hiding my true self. But fact of the matter is, this tool is very important. All the things that it does that we are not even aware of, like things that are going on inside of our tool, probably millions of processes that we don't really feel, but we know they're happening. Like, that just can't be me. I'm not the one in control. I'm not the one telling my body what to do and how to feel. I'm not the one giving my cells permission to multiply. I'm not the one causing reactions in my body. It's all done without my permission. I'm not consciously doing any of it. That's such an interesting contrast to me. Apparently, this is my body, but yet I feel like an observer. The closest thing you have control over is your personality, and yet even that is dictated by external forces. A lot of us are the way we are, not naturally, but because externally we had influences that dictate the way we are. And this brings me to my next topic. So many people act exactly the same way you expect them to. And I started to wonder why this is. But the answer is obvious. Most people become what the world already expects them to become. And sometimes I wonder if many people I see are actual people, or do they just exist as categories, templates? It's almost like everyone's auditioning for a role that They think they're supposed to play, even when they don't have to. It's pretty weird and strange, but when you don't conform, the other option is isolation. Now, not the only option, but for a lot of us, it is. And I'm going to use myself as an example. I don't conform to how society expects me to be. I'm black. I don't really listen to hip-hop. I don't really care about sports. I don't exactly talk black. Now, I put that in quotations because I know that sounds kind of stupid, but I don't know any other way to put it. Many of you watching this video probably thought I was white until I said I was black. And it's really terrifying when you think about it. It's actually horrifying how brainwashed people are. And I'm not blaming people, I'm blaming the world. And this is why I call people NPCs. You're playing a character that the world gave to you. You weren't the one in that character customization, creating that character. And it's pretty weird how I say this because pretty much everyone is a product of their environments and surroundings. But you can control how much it affects you and how much it defines you. And I'm speaking from personal experience. As a teenager, I spent a good chunk of time trying to blend in, trying to be a person that I'm not. And I'm still an NPC, don't get me wrong, we're still all NPCs. But there's a spectrum. Some people are high on the spectrum, some people are low on the spectrum. The ones that are low on the spectrum, well, typically they're the ones that actually question things. Typically they're the ones with more self-awareness. They're the ones that question the system. And even for the people that are low on the spectrum, it's not some sort of badge of superiority. I'm just saying that we see the world for what it is. The power of brainwashing is just insane. We're all brainwashed. And that's what's so creepy about this world. We're all just a product of our experiences that we probably didn't even ask for most of the time. A product of our environment that we didn't ask for. And that's the thing about this game called life. Pretty much every single thing about you as a person is shaped by things you don't control. People tell me all the time that I'm very authentic and real. I'm not. I'm not and you're not. None of us are original. We're all echoes of our own circumstances. You're like a piece of code. And even if your code broke, a new one was just built for you anyways, so it doesn't matter.